I want you to close your eyes for a second. Just picture a room. It's not a trench, it's not a cockpit, and it's definitely not something from a movie.
Oh, this is a real place.
It's a SCIF, a sensitive compartmented information facility. No windows. The walls are so soundproof, the air feels kind of thick.
And you got that hum, the constant hum of the air conditioning and the servers.
Right. And the whole place probably smells like stale coffee and ozone.
That's the smell. High-stress sweat and overheating electronics.
And in the middle of this room, on a desk, there's a single piece of paper. It's not a draft. It's not a brainstorm. It has been typed, reviewed by, a dozen lawyers, signed by the top brass, stamped. It physically exists.
And that piece of paper, that document, is the only thing standing between a very uneasy peace and a massive kinetic escalation in the Middle East.
The only step left is to, effectively press send?
That's it.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are unpacking a topic that, honestly, it kept me up last night after I finished the source material. We're calling this the week it almost happened. But we're really zooming in on that one document. A military order, fully prepared, fully authorized, but never sent.
It's such a fascinating case study because it really forces you to look at the machinery of modern war. We tend to think of it as, explosions and chaos, the stuff you see on the news.
Right, the fire and noise.
But the sources we're analyzing today, they show us that modern conflict starts very, very quietly. It starts with paperwork, with bureaucracy.
And that's the part that I really want to dig into first, this whole concept of war as bureaucracy.
Yeah.
Because you just don't picture it that way. You picture a general yelling, go, go, into a phone.
Yeah, and that's not really how it works, at least not at the start. If you look at the chain of command, places like the Pentagon, war is basically a document workflow. It's a sequence of approvals.
So before a pilot even walks to a plane, dozens of people have already signed off on it. Lawyers, strategists.
Exactly. In a way, it's less Top Gun and more, The Office, but with just infinitely higher stakes.
Wow.
The military actually has a term for it. They call it the kill chain.
Yeah.
And it's a series of really rigid steps. Find, fix, track, target, engage, assess. Each one of those steps generates data, and that data generates paperwork.
And each step needs a signature.
A signature, or digital authorization, yeah.
So the source material brings up this idea of inertia. There's a line that really stuck with me. Once the order exists, it wants to be used. That sounds almost supernatural.
It does, but it reflects a very real operational truth. Think about the energy that goes into creating that single piece of paper.
It's not just one person typing.
Oh, God, no. You've got intelligence gathering, satellites moving, intercepts being translated. You have target selection, risk assessment, legal reviews to make sure it complies with the law of armed conflict, logistical planning, fuel, munitions, crew schedule.
It's a massive project.
It's a huge undertaking. By the time that document lands on the final desk for approval, thousands of hours of effort have been poured into it. The whole system is designed to produce action.
So the momentum is just pushing it forward.
The momentum is immense. The bureaucracy hates waste. So the default state of a signed order is implementation.
Stopping it actually takes more effort than just letting it go.
It's a boulder rolling down a hill.
Precisely. And that's the context for the specific incident we're diving into today.
Okay, so let's set the scene. This isn't a hypothetical. We're talking about a real night where tensions were spiking between the United States and Iran.
Right, the context is critical here. Relations were already frayed, sanctions were biting, and the rhetoric it was getting pretty hot on both sides. But the trigger, the specific event, was a drone.
An American drone shot down over contested waters. And let's be really clear for everyone listening, because the word drone can be misleading.
It can.
This isn't a little quadcopter you get for Christmas. No, absolutely not. We're likely talking about something like a global hawk. These things are massive. The wingspan is wider than a Boeing 737. They're packed with classified tech, costing well over $100 million.
So when one of those gets shot down, it's not just a nuisance, it's a major strategic and financial loss.
Exactly. And the immediate reaction, based on the timeline in our sources, wasn't panic. It was fast, it was cold, and it was organized.
That's the administrative machine we were talking about kicking into gear.
The drone goes down, and instantly, military planners are looking for a proportional response. They're not just throwing darts at a map. They're pulling from a pre-approved menu of options. It's called targeting logic.
And the sources list the specific targets chosen. We're talking radar sites, missile batteries, and command facilities. Why those?
Well, it's about blinding the enemy. If they use a missile battery to shoot down your drone, you take out that battery and the radar that guided it. It's a logical, symmetrical response.
Symmetrical. That feels like a key word.
It is. The goal of the whole plan, the mission profile, was to be precise, limited. The objective was to disable their ability to do it again, and maybe more importantly, to send a message.
The message being, don't do that again.
Right. Without necessarily starting World War III, they were trying to thread a very, very fine needle.
But here's the thing about limited strikes, and the sources make this point really clearly. Once the wheels start turning, the physical reality is intense. We're not in DC anymore.
No. This is where the digital becomes kinetic. We move from the office to the hangar bay. The sources describe the operational readiness levels just peaking.
So paint that picture. What's actually happening on the ground at these air bases?
Planes are being fueled. And fueling a fighter jet isn't like filling up your car. It's a whole coordinated event. Munitions are being pulled from bunkers, highly volatile explosives, and armed and mounted onto the wings.
And the pilots?
They're in the briefing rooms, they're looking at maps, memorizing coordinates, checking weather patterns, running through their checklists.
This is that point of no return you mentioned. The boulder is really rolling now.
Yes. And psychologically, for everyone on that base, the mindset shifts. Military sociologists talk about this. When you are fueling that jet, you aren't thinking maybe. You are thinking go.
The ambiguity is gone.
Completely. The entire apparatus is geared toward launch. Stopping at this stage is incredibly difficult because every protocol, every neuron in that pilot's brain is screaming, execute. You just don't mount live warheads for a drill.
And the tension in that command center must have been just suffocating. The order is written, it's signed, it's just sitting there.
And then right in the middle of all this forward momentum, someone asks a question.
This is it. This is the pivot point of the entire story. A single question. How many casualties?
It seems so basic, doesn't it? You'd assume that would be on page 1 of the briefing.
Wasn't it? I mean, casualty estimates have to be part of the package.
Oh, they are. It's called CDE collateral damage estimation. It's a standard part of the targeting cycle. The number was probably in an appendix somewhere, listed as a risk factor. But in the heat of that moment, with the clock ticking, someone vocalized it. They asked for the specific human cost.
The answer comes back. Approximately 150 people.
And we should pause on that number. In the grand scheme of war, 150 might sound small to some people. But in that room on that night, that number landed with a heavy thud.
And our sources did a great job of breaking down who these 150 people probably were. We're not talking about soldiers in a trench.
No. We're talking about hitting radar sites and command facilities. So you're looking at specialized personnel, radar operators, engineers, maintenance crews.
The guy running the generator, maybe.
Perimeter guards. Exactly. People who are basically just working a night shift. They have no idea that a decision made halfway across the world determines whether or not they see the sunrise.
That part really hit me, the quote from the source. People who will never know why tonight is different. They're just drinking tea, checking gauges, and they're suddenly part of this geopolitical math problem.
And that gets to the psychology of it. The number itself, 150, wasn't necessarily new information.
Yeah.
But saying it out loud.
It makes it real.
It makes it real. It changes the context. It stops being collateral damage estimate, medium, and it becomes 150 dead bodies.
And it forces a comparison. On one side of the scale, you have an unmanned drone, a robot.
A very expensive robot, but yes. Piece of metal and plastic, and on the other side of the scale, 150 human lives.
And this is where the president hesitates.
The pause. This is the moment. The president asked for the strike to be stopped.
Now let's be really clear about why, because I think a lot of people might assume this was a legal problem, like the lawyers suddenly ran in screaming.
No. By all accounts in the sources, the strike was legally justified under international norms. The U.S. had been attacked, its property destroyed, and this was a response against the military assets that did it. Legally, it was clean.
Okay, so it wasn't an operational failure either. The generals didn't say, we can't hit the target.
No, the op was sound. Success probability was near 100%. The weapons work. The pilots are the best in the world.
So it was purely about the arithmetic.
It was a calculation of proportionality. It's a core concept in the law of armed conflict. Is the damage you're about to cause proportional to the military advantage you gain?
But that's usually a legal test. It sounds like here it became a personal, maybe even a moral one.
It's where the two overlap. Is it worth it? Is it worth trading 150 lives for one shot-down robot? It wasn't some sudden wave of pacifism. It was a cold, hard look at the ledger. 150 to 1. The math just didn't add up.
And so the abort order is given. minutes before launch. I mean, can you imagine being that pilot? You're strapped in, engines spooled up, adrenaline pumping through your veins, and then you just hear, stand down.
It's called whiplash.
Yeah.
It's incredibly jarring. The planes turn back, the missiles stay cold, the night goes on. And for those 150 people at the radar sites in Iran, nothing happens.
That's the part that's so haunting, the silence of the non-event. They finish their shift, go home, have breakfast with their kids, and they never, ever know how close they came.
They're ghosts who didn't die.
So let's play the what-if game for a minute, because the sources go there, and it's where the real lesson is. What if the president hadn't asked? Or what if he decided 150 was an acceptable price?
Well, the strike would have landed, 150 people would be dead, and as the source says, retaliation was expected.
Iran would have to respond.
Absolutely. To save face, to maintain deterrence, they would be compelled to hit back.
And what does that look like?
You're now on the escalation ladder. They might have targeted U.S. ships in the Persian Gulf, fired missiles at American bases in the region. Or, the nightmare scenario, they try to close the Strait of Hormuz.
Which is the choke point for a huge percentage of the world's oil.
Right. So now gas prices spike, global markets panic, and the U.S. would be forced to respond to that response.
Yeah.
You hit my ship, I hit your naval base. You hit my base, I hit your capital.
It spirals.
It spirals, and that's the danger. Once you take that first step onto the ladder, it is so hard to get off. The source uses a phrase, I think it's just vital. Once the first strike lands, control becomes illusion.
Oof. Control becomes illusion. That's terrifying because right before the strike, you feel like you have total control.
You do. But the second that missile leaves the rail, you're no longer in charge. You're just a participant in the chaos. You surrender control to physics, to the enemy's reaction, to the fog of war. The plan ends where the explosion begins.
So by pausing, by doing the math, they kept control. They chose not to step into that chaos. You know, when I first read this story, my first reaction was relief. I thought, hey, the system works. A leader acted rationally and saved lives. It feels like a reassuring story.
It does feel that way on the surface, but I want to challenge that because our sources do too. There's a dangerous lesson lurking just beneath the surface of that relief.
Okay, go on. Because I'm still feeling pretty good about the 150 people who are still alive.
And you should. But think about the machinery itself. The strike package was ready, it was legally cleared, it was operationally perfect. The bureaucracy had successfully produced a flawless plan to kill 150 people over a drone. The system worked exactly as it was designed to.
I see what you're saying. The machine didn't fail. It succeeded. It just wasn't used. The machine itself didn't have a conscience.
Not at all. The process didn't flag the casualty count as a stop criteria. The algorithm of bureaucracy, it doesn't value human life. It values mission completion.
So it took a human intervention, one person asking one question at the last possible second to override the machine.
Which means that if the president had been distracted that night, or tired, or just a little less inquisitive, the war would have started. If you just trusted the briefing packet, the missiles would fly.
So the difference between peace and a potential regional war that night, it wasn't a treaty, it wasn't diplomacy, it wasn't some clever fail-safe in the software. It was just a pause, a human pause.
And that is a much less reassuring thought.
Yeah, that makes peace feel incredibly fragile.
It is fragile. We rely on this arithmetic of life being calculated correctly by stressed-out human beings in quiet rooms, often with incomplete information. And in this case, the math saved the day. But that machinery is always there, humming in the background, waiting for the next order.
The order that wants to be used, the inertia is always pushing towards send.
It is. It's a natural bias toward action. In politics and in the military, doing something is almost always seen as better than doing nothing, even if nothing is the smarter move. It takes more courage to say stop when the planes are on the runway than it does to say go.
It really reframes how you watch the news. We see tensions are high, we think about the speeches and the tweets, but underneath all that, this machinery is always running. The gun is always being loaded.
Always. And usually the safety is on. But this deep dive just shows us how close the finger came to the trigger. It wasn't days away, it was minutes.
So as we wrap this up, what's the big takeaway for you? When you look back at that piece of paper on the desk, the order that was never sent, what do you see?
I see the absolute necessity of keeping a human in the loop. We're building faster weapons, AI-driven targeting, hypersonic missiles. All of it reduces decision time to seconds. But at the end of the day, the most critical safety mechanism we have is a human being's ability to do the moral math.
To just ask, wait, Does this make sense?
Exactly, because an AI might look at the mission success probability and say, go.
Yeah.
But a human looks at 150 lives and hopefully says, wait. If we lose that, if we automate the response too much because we trust the process, the machinery will take us places we don't want to go.
The world survived that night because someone did the math. Simple as that.
It is. And it leaves us with this really unsettling thought that we're always just one pause away from a very different history book.
And that sets us up perfectly for our next deep dive. Today we talked about a moment where someone hesitated and peace won, but next time.
Next time, we're going to look at a decision where no one paused. A moment where the machinery just kept rolling, the right questions weren't asked, and the consequences, well, they echoed for a very, very long time.
We're going to see what happens when the math is ignored, but for today, we'll leave you with this thought. Sometimes the most dangerous thing in the world isn't the explosion itself, it's how frighteningly easy it is to almost start a war.
And how quiet it can be right before it happens.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.
Stay curious.